The northeast region of Brazil is one of the 5 official and political regions of the country according to the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics. For the socio-geographic area, see Nordeste. Of Brazil's 26 states, it comprises 9: Maranhão, Piauí, Ceará, Rio Grande do Norte, Paraíba, Pernambuco, Alagoas, Sergipe and Bahia, along with the Fernando de Noronha archipelago. Chiefly known as Nordeste in Brazil, this region was the first to be discovered and colonized by the Portuguese and other European peoples, playing a crucial role in the country's history. Nordeste's dialects and rich culture, including its folklore, cuisines, music and literature, became the most easily distinguishable across the country. To this day, Nordeste is widely recognized for its history and culture, as well as for its beautiful natural sights and its hot weather. Nordeste stretches from the Atlantic seaboard in the northeast and southeast, northwest and west to the Amazon basin and south through the Espinhaco Highlands in southern Bahia. It encloses the São Francisco River and drainage basin, which were instrumental in the exploration, settlement and economic development of the region. The region lies entirely within the Earth's tropical zone and encompasses Caatinga, Atlantic forest and part of the Cerrado ecoregions. The climate is hot and semi-arid, varying from xeric in Caatinga to mesic in Cerrado and hydric in the Atlantic forest. The northeast region represents 18% of Brazilian territory, has a population of 53.6 million people, 28% of the total population of the country, and contributes 13.4% of Brazil's GDP. Nearly 3/4 of the population live in urban areas clustered along the Atlantic coast and about 15 million people live in the hinterland. It is an impoverished region. 58% of the population lives in poverty, defined as less than $2 per day. Each of the state's capitals are also its largest cities, and they include Recife, Salvador, Fortaleza and São Luís, all lying on the Atlantic coast, each with a population above 1 million inhabitants. Nordeste has 9 international airports, and the region has the second largest number of passengers in Brazil. Geography and climate. Zona da Mata. The Zona da Mata comprises the rainforest zones of Nordeste in the humid eastern coast, where the region's largest capital cities are also located. The forest area was much larger before suffering from centuries of deforestation and exploration. For many years, sugarcane cultivation in this region was the mainstay of Brazil's economy, being superseded only when coffee production developed in the late 19th century. The sugar cane is cultivated on large estates and the owners of these had and maintain tremendous political influence. Since the escarpment does not generate any further rainfall on its slopes from the lifting of the trade winds, annual rainfall decreases steadily inland. After a relatively short distance, there is no longer enough rainfall to support tropical rainforest, especially since the rainfall is extremely erratic from year to year. This transitional zone is known as the agreste, and because it is located on the steep escarpment, was not generally used whilst flatter land was abundant. Today, with irrigation water available, however, the agreste, as its name suggests, is a major farming region despite containing no major city. Contains well-developed medium-large cities such as Caruaru, Campina Grande and Arapiraca. Sertão in Portuguese. The word sertão first referred to the vast hinterlands of Asia and South America that Lusitanian explorers encountered. In Brazil, the geographical term referred to backlands away from the Atlantic coastal regions where the Portuguese first settled in South America in the early 16th century. Geographically, the Sertão consists mainly of low uplands that form part of the Brazilian highlands. Most parts of the Sertão are between 200 and 500 meters above sea level, with higher elevations found on the eastern edge in the Planalto da Borborema, where it merges into a subhumid region known as Agreste, in the Serra da Ibiapaba in western Ceará, and in the Cerro de Periquito of central Pernambuco. In the north, the Sertão extends to the northern coastal plains of Rio Grande do Norte state, whilst in the south it fades out in the northern fringe of Minas Gerais. Because the Sertão lies close to the equator, temperatures remain nearly uniform throughout the year and are typically tropical, often extremely hot in the west. However, the Sertão is distinctive in its low rainfall compared to other areas of Brazil. Because of the relatively cool temperatures in the South Atlantic Ocean, the intertropical convergence zone remains north of the region for most of the year, so that most of the year is very dry. Although annual rainfall averages between 500 and 800 mm over most of the Sertão and 1,300 mm on the northern coast at Fortaleza, it is confined to a short rainy season. This season extends from January to April in the west, but in the eastern Sertão it generally occurs from March to June. However, rainfall is extremely erratic and in some years the rains are minimal, leading to catastrophic drought. Maio Norte. Maio Norte is a transition area between the high rainfalls region of Amazon rainforest and the semi-arid region of Sertão, covering the state of Maranhão and half of Piauí. Hydrology. The northeast region comprises the drainage basins of the Rio São Francisco, Piauí Canine and Paraíba rivers. Geology and topography. Geographically, Nordeste consists chiefly of an eroded continental craton with many low hills and small ranges. The highest peaks are around 1,850 meters in Bahia, while further north there are no peaks above 1,123 meters. On its northern and western side, the plateaus fall steadily to the coast and into the basin of the Tocantins River in Maranhão, but on the eastern side it falls off quite sharply to the coast except in the valley of the São Francisco River. The steep slopes and long cliffs of the eastern coastline are known as the Great Escarpment. The escarpment serves an extremely important climatic function, because for most of the year the Nordeste is out of reach of the intertropical convergence zone. The easterly trade winds blow across the region, giving abundant rainfall to the coast but producing clear, dry conditions inland where the escarpment blocks moisture flow. This gives rise to four distinct regions: the Zona da Mata on the coast, the Agreste on the escarpment, Sertão beyond, and the mid-north. Conservation. Summary of threats: deforestation, degradation of mangroves and restingas, poaching and animal trading, infrastructure, dams, mining, tourism development, introduction of alien species, protected areas in Brazil. Brazil is characterized by a complex system of conservation units. As a matter of fact, 61% of the national territory is covered by strict protected areas and 52% by areas dedicated to sustainable development, for a total of 13% of the national territory. However, this figure is slightly overestimated, since many areas of environmental protection include one or more conservation units dedicated to indirect use. The conservation units managed by Instituto Brasileiro de Meio Ambiente e dos Recursos Naturais Renováveis cover approximately 45 million hectares, and include about 256 conservation units of direct or indirect use, which include environmental protection areas, biological reserves, ecological stations, national forests, areas of relevant ecological interest, forest national parks, several private natural heritage reserves, and wildlife sanctuaries. There are also several conservation units that are managed by the Brazilian states, and cover about 22 million hectares. Moreover, there are wetlands protected as Ramsar sites, Reserva de Desenvolvimento Sustentado Mamiraua, Área de Proteção Ambiental da Baixada Maranhense, Área de Proteção Ambiental da Serra da Bachariche, Parque Nacional da Lagoa de Peaks, Área de Proteção Ambiental das Reentrâncias Maranhenses, Parque Estadual Marinho de Parcel de Manuel Luiz, Parque Nacional do Araguaia, Parque Nacional do Pantanal Mato Grossense, Reserva Particular de Patrimônio Natural do SESC Pantanal, and Biosphere Reserves, Reserva da Biosfera da Mata Atlântica, Reserva da Biosfera de Cerrado, Reserva da Biosfera de Pantanal. Main categories of protected areas. Environment Protection Area. It is a rather large area characterized by a considerable population density and with abiotic, aesthetic, or cultural features of great importance, above all for the quality of life and wellness of man. Protecting biological diversity, regulating the settlement processes, and ensuring the sustainable use of natural resources are among its main aims. Wildlife Refuge. This protected area aims at protecting the natural environments, ensuring the conditions for the survival and reproduction of species or communities belonging to the local flora and to resident or migratory fauna. Biological Reserve. It aims at strictly safeguarding the natural aspects within its borders, avoiding direct human interference or environmental changes, through measures to recover altered ecosystems and management actions necessarily to recover and maintain the natural balance, biological diversity, and natural ecological processes. Ecological Station. It aims at safeguarding nature and carrying out scientific research activities. National Park. It aims at preserving natural ecosystems of great beauty and ecological importance, giving the opportunity to carry out scientific research activities or developing environmental education and interpretation activities, as well as promoting recreational activities at direct contact with nature and ecological tourism. Area of relevant ecological interest. Not very large area, with a scarce population density and extraordinary natural features of great importance to regional and local level. Sustainable Development Reserve. Natural area including traditional populations whose existence is based on sustainable systems of exploitation of the natural resources which have been developed generation after generation and adapted to local ecological conditions. They play an essential role in the protection of nature and maintenance of biological diversity. Source: Instituto Brasileiro de Meio Ambiente e dos Recursos Naturais Renováveis, Ministério de Meio Ambiente. History. Main articles. Colonial Brazil. History of Brazil. Nordeste was primarily inhabited by indigenous peoples, mostly speaking languages of the Tupi-Guarani family, who, before the colonial era, helped Europeans with the extraction of Brazil wood from the coastal rainforest in exchange for spices. But as colonization and commercial interest intensified in the region, the number of Indians became drastically reduced due to the constant battles with the owners of the large sugar mills. Conflicts arose because the settlers had displaced the native inhabitants and then tried to enslave them as labor in the fields. The Portuguese colonials then considered the idea of importing black African slaves to use as manual labor. To this day, culture in northeast Brazil remains fully permeated by this African influence. Nordeste was the first area area of discovery in Brazil, when roughly 1,500 Portuguese arrived on April 22, 1500, under the command of Pedro Álvares Cabral at Porto Seguro, in the state of Bahia. The coast of Nordeste was the stage for the first economic activity of the country, namely the extraction and export of pau-Brazil, or Brazil wood. Brazil wood was highly valued in Europe, where it was used to make violin bows and for the red dye it produced. Countries like France, which disagreed with the Treaty of Tordesillas, launched many attacks on the coast to steal the wood. French colonists not only tried to settle in present-day Rio de Janeiro from 1555 to 1567, but also in present-day São Luís from 1612 to 1614. The Dutch, also opposed to the Treaty of Tordesillas, plundered Nordeste's coast, sacked Bahia in 1604, and even temporarily captured Salvador. From 1630 to 1654 the Dutch set up more permanently in Nordeste and controlled a long stretch of coast that was most accessible to Europe without, however, penetrating the interior. But the colonists of the Dutch West India Company in Brazil were in a constant siege despite the presence in Recife of the great John Maurice of Nassau as governor. Slave resistance began during the colonial era in the 17th century, and eventually led to the formation of quilombos, or settlements of runaway and free-born African slaves. The Quilombo dos Palmares, the largest and most well-known of these settlements, was founded around 1600 in the Serra da Barriga Hills, in the present state of Alagoas. Palmares, at the height of its power, was an independent, self-sustaining republic, hosting a population of over 30,000 free African men, women and children. There were over 200 buildings in the community, a church, 4 smithies, and a council house. Although Palmares managed to defend itself from the Dutch military and the Portuguese colonials for several decades, it was finally taken and destroyed, and its leader Zumbi dos Palmares was captured and beheaded. His head was then displayed in a public plaza in Recife. Besides being Brazil's main seaport, Brazil's center of the African slave trade, a center of the sugar industry, and the seat of the first Catholic Bishop of Brazil, the city of Salvador was also the first general seat of government in Brazil, as it is strategically located in the center of the eastern coast of the country. The government in Salvador sought to centralize power in an effort to support the various captaincies, geographical subdivisions that preceded the present states of Brazil, which at this time were in a state of crisis. Salvador remained the colonial capital until 1763, when it was succeeded by Rio de Janeiro, the new economic power center of that era. Political subdivisions. Unlike the provinces of Canada, the regions of Brazil do not have their own governmental or administrative bodies. Also, unlike the Midwest United States, the regions of Brazil are well defined. The boundaries and constituent states are part of the recognized geopolitical structure of the country. The Northeast region is divided into 9 states, or approximately 1793 municipalities, and 2 special municipalities, St. Peter and St. Paul Archipelago and Fernando de Noronha Archipelago. There are no unincorporated areas. Brazilian states are divided into mesoregions, and mesoregions into microregions, each region representing a group of municipalities. These regions were created by the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics for statistical purposes and do not therefore constitute an administrative area. Municipalities are analogous to counties in states of the United States. A city is the urban area of the municipality, and always has the same name as the municipality. A municipality may include cities other than the one which gives it its name. The largest state of the Northeast region in terms of area, population and economic output is Bahia. Its capital, Salvador, is the largest city of Nordeste. Economy. The picture shows Fortaleza, the second largest metropolitan region of Nordeste, northeastern Brazil's economy is based on coffee, sugarcane, livestock, manufacturing and textiles. Forest products. Its economy is mainly based on the production of sugar, cocoa and cotton, as well as the extensive cattle breeding. Some time ago, at São Francisco River Valley, fruits for export started being produced, too, at the seaside and the continental platform of the region. The main activity is the exploitation of oil, which is later processed in the state of Bahia. Major industries are in the main metropolitan areas of Nordeste. Official reclamation activities have spurred the construction of numerous dams and hydroelectric projects, especially on the São Francisco River. In the 1960s, a violent dictatorship in Brazil created a resilient state of poverty in the region. Development of tourism is a concerted, ongoing effort. The São Francisco River is responsible for the regional production of energy and it also bathes the states of Bahia, Sergipe, Alagoas and Pernambuco. Nordeste is rich in natural beauties with its beaches of clear, warm water. Beyond tourism, Nordeste also develops its industrial sector. Every day, important investors from many countries come to this region to search for new opportunities. The governments try to motivate the inflow of new investment money based on the needs of its states. Tourism and recreation. See also List of beaches #Brazil, List of national parks of Brazil, Brazil #economy #tourism. Tourism has grown significantly in the region in the last decades, showing the high potential of each state. Besides the capitals, most coastal cities of the Northeast region have many natural beauties, such as the Abrolhos Marine National Park, Itacaré, Comandatuba Island, Costa do Sauípe, Canasveras and Porto Seguro in the state of Bahia, the Marine National Park of Fernando de Noronha, Porto de Galinhas Beach in the state of Pernambuco, tropical paradises, such as Canoa Quebrada and Jericoacoara on the coast of Ceará, as well as the places to practice free flight, as Cajada and Sobral, and Lençóis Maranhenses, embellishing the coast of Maranhão state, among many others. In the interior area, national parks of Serra da Capivara and Sete Cidades, both in the state of Piauí, João Pessoa, in the state of Paraíba, Chapada Diamantina, in the state of Bahia, and many other attractions. The economy is based on tourism or agriculture. The tourist industry is based largely on the beaches, which attract thousands of tourists per year, not only from other regions of Brazil but also many from Europe, the United States, and Australia. There are two recognized nudist beaches in Nordeste: Tambaba Beach north of Recife, Paraíba, and Macerendapio Beach 100 kilometers north of Salvador, Bahia. Infrastructure. Educational institutions: Universidade Federal de Pernambuco, Universidade Federal da Bahia, Universidade da Integração Internacional da Lusofônia Afro-Brasileira, Universidade Federal de Ceará, Universidade Federal da Paraíba, Universidade Federal da Rio Grande do Norte, Universidade Federal de Sergipe, Universidade Federal de Alagoas, Universidade Federal de Maranhão, Universidade Federal de Piauí, and many others. International airports: AJU Santa Maria Airport, Aracaju, Sergipe, MCZ Zumbi dos Palmares International Airport, Maceió, Alagoas, PHB Parnaíba Prefeito Dr. João Silva Filho International Airport, Parnaíba, Piauí, SLZ Marechal Cunha Machado International Airport, São Luís, Maranhão, Nat Augusto Severo International Airport, Natal, Rio Grande do Norte, for Pinto Martins International Airport, Fortaleza, Ceará. JPA Presidente Castro Pinto International Airport, João Pessoa, Paraíba. Recararapes International Airport, Recife, Pernambuco. SSA Deputado Luís Eduardo Magalhães International Airport, Salvador, Bahia. Oil refineries Lubnor, Fortaleza 82,000 barrels, d. Seaports Mucuri Port, Ceará. Suape Port, Ipojuca, Pernambuco. Port of Peckham, Ceará. Petrochemical plant Braskem, Camaçari, Bahia. Railroads planned for completion in 2013. A new railway will link Suape to the northeastern interior. The federal government began construction in 1990, but it was postponed due to a shortage of money and only resumed in 2006. A second branch will travel north to the port of Pece which is also being expanded. The Ceará state government is setting up an institute to provide railroad travel for 12,000 workers a year, while Petrobras is also building another refinery. Paulo Roberto Costa, its downstream director, envisages trains transporting soybeans, corn, and iron ore from the interior to the ports, and returning with oil. Journey times to Europe and America will be 3 or 4 days less than from southeastern ports. The 1,728 km line will one day carry 30 million tons of cargo a year. Mines hydroelectric dams and reservoirs. Brazil counts on hydroelectricity for more than 80% of its electricity. Alagoas hydroelectric power plant 3,162. Bahia Apollonia Sales hydroelectric power plant 400. Paulo Afonso Complex hydroelectric power plant 1,417.2. Paulo Afonso IV hydroelectric power plant 2,642.4.